Welcome back to another one. Sarah's just been in here putting some of the things together to give it the kind of aesthetic, let her feel what it's going to look like when it's done. There's actually a lot we can get on with in this video, and it's going to get so close to being done. First thing I'm going to do is get these worktops fastened down. I'll start with this one over here and then move on to this one. I will have to cut a gap in this beam here for the sink. I don't actually know why I set this in from the edge and didn't do it along here, but it's okay. I'll just have to cut a little bit of it out to mount the sink in here. I've been and taken the sink off the old van already, so that's ready to go. Hopefully I can get these in today, and then once that's sort of stuck down and bonded, then maybe we can move on to the tiling up here, and I can get onto the gas, maybe the electrics. These are looking really good now. They've got that top oil on. They've got a nice sort of matte, sort of satiny finish to them. And now they're fully sealed and food safe, so we can put food on here and it's not going to give us any nasty sort of chemicals or reactions or anything like that. I'm actually just going to screw straight through these beams, just up into the bottom of this. Really quick and easy. I'll probably just do a couple down, front and back. And then that one's in and ready to go. Here's our sink from the old van. I've just been and taken it out, given it a bit of a clean. There's still some sealant around the edges, but not really much of a concern. We've only had this for about a year and a half, so we're keeping the same one. It works really well. It's a nice, big size, nice and deep. As I said quickly, I'm just gonna have to probably take out some of that beam there because we are gonna be mounting this underneath here. So there is actually another beam just in here, so I'm not worried about this one being too structural. It's still going to be holding the drawers and cupboards up. I'll just actually take out probably all of that. I may try to do the same on the back just to make sure we've got a load of clearance around this sink so the lip isn't awkwardly sitting. So I'll modify it a little bit, but yeah, it won't take too long. Okay, so there is the sink ready to go. Now we're going to mount this on the underside, so we'll have to put some sealant all the way around here. I'm going to be using Gorilla mold resistant sealant clear. This is actually the exact same tube I used last time to fit this. We've had it in the old van sitting around since then, so I'm just going to use the same one. It worked fine last time. It is designed for shower, bathroom, kitchen, window and door frames, so it's a bit of everything. I've just run around this so that now I know where it wants to be sitting on this counter, and then I'm going to use various brackets to get this fitted in place. Some are going to be these ones that I think came with the sink, and then for some reason the old one I'd kind of used these brackets as well. I'll screw the holes in for these first, then we'll run that sealant around the bottom and then get these fitted in. Last thing I'm going to do before flipping this over is I'm just going to get the wood glue out, stick this bit of wood in here and just glue that down, a couple of screws either end, just to strengthen that bit between these two. As I said in the previous video, that area there is where we have had issues with water and cold and just damage to the worktop, so putting this in there just gives it that extra little bit of strength. Right, I will leave all of that drying overnight and then come back to that first thing in the morning and get it finally fitted. So now that those are in, Sarah can start tiling this wall just here for a bit of a splashback. The next kind of process we're into now is a little bit awkward, as we need to start taking apart the old van before we move into this one. Things like our gas, our electrics, heater, we're still using those kind of on a daily basis, so we want to minimize that awkward crossover time. So what I'm going to try and do today is get as much done as possible that doesn't start stripping the old van. So that will kind of be finishing off a few little things, window frames, building some shelves, getting a few of the extra little bits finished around here. All of the cupboard doors for the top now I will finish. The last one is just gluing here so I can get those fitted up. We also could get our bed fully in, as most of the cutting and drying and painting is now done, so we can tidy that area up, get the bed in, and wow, I feel like the next 24 hours, it could look so close to being finished. We've then got a lot of electrics and hidden stuff to do, but visually, yeah, it'll look great. I'm going to try and get the window frames in now that these are stained. We're having a little bit of different thoughts about how to fit in here. We had ideas of having a curtain rail hiding up here, leaving space here to tuck curtains into behind. We may still do that, but then we also had the idea of having a roller blind made of like wood, so keep the nice aesthetic around that rolls up and down. But for that, we wouldn't want it to be hidden around the edges because it might not fit in this gap. What I'm going to do is fit them as if we are having those roller blinds. Worst case is I need to modify it and make it work with different curtains, but at least this will get us a little step closer to being finished. I'm going to mount all this in as nice as I can around here, and then I'll have to cut more wood. We're going to put a strip of wood like our cupboards and drawers around the edge to sort of frame it and finish it off. So any screws that I'm screwing in will be hidden behind that. I'm going to fit this bar in here. It'll give this a bit of a bed that I can screw into. There we go. Now I've got something I can screw through here into. Now I will have to cut these down a little bit since we've changed how we're going to work things. So line it up with the edge there, screw that into place. So I actually missed pressing record on that one, annoyingly, but I fixed small thin battens down the inside of this, just like we did with this one here. Then I've been able to drill through these slats to fix that in place. Now this window frame is in. We'll spin around now, repeat the process over here, get those both looking the same, and then we'll work on those borders. Job done. Also looks great. Oh, that makes it look so finished. I've pulled in a load of the edging we're going to use to trim this off around the edge. So I'll take the measurements for that and then cut the corners at a diagonal to keep them nice and neat. That's all of those cut. We'll get those stained, at least with the first coat, overnight, and hopefully get a second one on tomorrow. We've got some hinges available, so I might try to fit our little door up quickly, get that fitted in. One extra thing I'm going to do as well, Sarah had a really good idea of putting some of the rattan material in the back of this little pocket here just to tidy that up.
Thought it could look cute.
Yeah, and then I might cut a few bits of wood for shelves that are going to go here, one opposite, very similar. Just get those cut out, so again I can get those stained tonight, at least with the first coat. We're going to fit this on with some of the small hinges that were supposed to be for these cupboards up above, but are too small. They will do nicely for this though, just in there. It means they're nice and hidden, and that when this is closed there won't be anything showing. It'll just look like that. Really nice. Probably need a little catch in here or something just to keep it closed so it doesn't move around. Maybe I'll go and ask her if she wants a nubbin on there. I think it wants a nubbin.
You need to clean your that's disgusting.
It's Woodstain.
Oh.
That's not grime.
It's still fucking gross.
That's what happens when you stain wood every day.
Jesus. I don't know if I like it. I like it, but I don't.
I think it looks good on there.
Yeah, I know, but I also had ooh. A bit aggressive. I don't know, I kind of like it plain too.
Yeah, because there is like a slight open, like because of this edge. Just installed this. My phone died halfway through the video. Kind of just cut out some of that rattan material and just placed it in here for now. I'm going to kind of see what we think and how it feels like in a day or two before sticking it in. Maybe we'll just do it to the back wall and not the side walls, but once we glue it, it's going to really damage that box, so we want to be certain. I'm going to move on to now shelf 1 and shelf 2. This one here is going to be the same measurements as one we've got in the old van. It's going to hold 3 mason jars for sort of tea, coffee, sugar. I'll go and take measurements off the old van for that and cut it out of some wood, and we can get that staining. This side here is just going to be one curved shelf. Isn't going to have a rail or anything like that. It's just going to be nicely curved. Maybe put a plant on there or something like that. There's actually one more I'm going to try to cut today, which is going to be the railing that's going to go around here. I'm going to do that out of wood as well. So I'll try to get that measured and cut as I'm doing this other stuff. For these shelves, I'm just using a 18mm pine board because they're a little bit nicer to look at and work with. Just going to place this up on the edge here and I'll draw around the bottom of that to give me those curves. So that's the curved one drawn. And then for this other side here, it's going to be about 20 centimetres. There's the straight. And then what I'll do is take a pencil. There's my nice semicircle shelf ready to be cut as well. Next this one here, I'm just going to run and get some measurements for that and I'll mark that on as well. And then the very final shelf we're going to have is going to be made of some of the offcut of our worktop, and it's going to be really quite small. It's going to be 10 centimetres, but probably about 20 to 30, and it's just going to sit behind our heads above the bed, and on there we're going to put a little plant and maybe a projector just to focus some TV ahead of us. Right, that is all the measurements done. I'll go and have a big session of just like cutting various different saws, different bits. I'll try and get my head wrapped around it all, and then straight after that I'll go into staining. Tomorrow, when it's all stained and ready to go and be fitted, I'll then come back to this and talk through where everything's going to go and how it's going to work. I'm going to get all of the cupboard doors up today. First up, it's the smallest and sort of easiest one, I guess, or the most unique, is the one for just here. Now, this does need another coat of paint on the front and painting on the back, but there's no reason I can't fit it up and just take it off the hinges to actually paint it one more time. I'm going to fix this batting up behind that door, and then we're actually going to try and use those small hinges. Hopefully they'll be strong enough to work, because this is quite a small door compared to the size of these big ones that do require the heavier duty hinges. I'll get this fitted up now, and then I need to go and whip off all the bigger hinges off the old van, and then we can fit all of these top cover doors as well. So these have taken a little bit of time to get finished, glued up, but they're looking great. We still need to fit some handles on them to help open them, but we actually haven't got enough of those, so there's some more in the post and we'll have to get those stained and attached afterwards. But now finally I can start getting these fixed up. I'll just work my way around attaching the hinges to the little blocks we installed and get these all fitted up nicely. First one done. Just got to repeat that another 5 times now.
That was great.
They're looking really good. Just need to wait for those handles to arrive and then we can get those up. There, another thing finished. I'm going to actually just continue on with some of the stuff I've been staining that's dry now. Might go for the window frames, try and get those up just to clear this space out a little bit, because it'd be nice to get the bed in really soon. Right, the surround for our window frame are now dry, so I'm gonna try and get that up to finish off with the windows, make huge progress. It's amazing how much everything is coming together in like just a couple of days now. Gonna just put a little amount of glue on this and just tap it in with a couple of pins It'd be nice to get this off again if we need to, but we also want it to try to be as minimal as possible. Can't actually get into this corner here, so I've just wedged a bit of wood in there to keep that tight whilst it glues. So this door's out of bounds for the next hour or so, but can move on to this side now, get that window frame done. With the weather being a bit drier and no rain, it's a great opportunity to try and get our bed in, because we've got to bring a mattress and carry that out. But we'll give this a very good clean now that all of the big sort of indoor cutting jobs are done, and then big old sweep, and then we can actually get the bed in. Been ages since we put that first beam in.
Isn't it ridiculous?
It's one of the first jobs we did.
I know.
We've got these Scorver beams from IKEA, mentioned many times earlier in the videos. These are great because they extend to whatever length you need them to. Already got our brackets installed for this, so we're just going to lay these on. Then we've got IKEA bed slats as well. We've got 2 of these, so that will cover both halves of the bed. And then we'll get our mattress in and talk about that in a little bit. Should we try this?
Yeah.
So that's all the slats in. We've gone around and put screws along the outside edges, so it's the inside that will have the slight flex and movement as weight goes across. I guess the next thing is to run and get our mattress.
We're gonna pick it up and move it.
Lift
How are we going to get it in there?
slide. Pivot.
Pivot.
So this mattress is a custom fit. We actually measured the dimensions and got it to fit perfectly, and I'd say that is pretty much bang on.
That is the perfect fit.
Oh, this is actually loads. And look how wide it is.
I know.
Like, because the old van ends here. We've got a custom sheet for this as well,
Yeah.
that we had cut from the same place, so it fits this mattress. Actually, before we call it for the day,
I side up some.
I'll quickly show you what this looks like from an angle that's easier to see. So yeah, you can see here that we've measured it in, so it's got this diagonal edge and then comes straight again along here, and the same this side, so that it fits really nicely in. And when the door's closed, right up against the edge, which is nice.
Nice.
We've actually gained probably another, what's that, like 6-7 inches width on our bed compared to the old one.
The other one comes to about here. doesn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
as well as being a little bit longer.
Nice.
I feel like we've made such good progress today.
We actually did it. We did the bed good. I can't believe how good of a fit that bed is.
Yeah, so pleased. Oh, it's looking so good with the bed in. Everything is coming together so nicely. We're so close to being finished, so I'm just going to keep ploughing through little things today ahead of really taking apart the other van. I have just been and taken off these hinge brackets, which are going to be holding this extendable worktop out over the edge here, so that this will be like this when it's in transport and stowed, but you can lift it up and it will click into place and make this worktop so much longer. One of my favourite features in the current van, it gives you so much space when you need it, but then opens the space up when you don't. These hinges have basically got a little lever you can click, and then they drop down, fold flat, and then they just extend up and click into place again. Really simple, but they're really good and sturdy. We've got 2 of those, and they're just going to be mounted in here, just to extend and hold this up when it's needed. looks nice and tidy when it's just hanging down flat, not too bad. And then when you want this extra space, you just pop it up, and there you go, you've got all that extra counter. I think these are weighted to actually quite a bit of weight, so like surprisingly like 20-30 kilos. So I'm not going to test that, but it's great for putting the odd pan on, plates, you know, when you're just trying to cook and you want that extra room. And then to put it down, you just have to reach, grab those little levers, and it goes. Right, our small shelf is going to float in here, and ideally we don't want this to have any supports that are visible. It's not going to have a rail or anything like that, it's just going to be a floating shelf. Now, to make that work without having any visible brackets or screws or attachments, I've been back over to the old van and I've salvaged these hidden sort of shelf hooks. You can fix these into the wall as long as you've got a hole drilled in here and enough of a recess for the plate. That will push into there and it will stop this from moving around too much. Keeps it looking really nice and neat. Now, when fitting this in the last van, cutting the little indentation for this plate and drilling the hole right was an absolute nightmare. So I'll take my time with that, try and make it nice and neat. Right, so I've got those cut out now so that those plates sit inside there nice and flush. Now what I need to do is drill the hole that these spars will sit in and keep it level. So I want to drill a hole that's roughly the exact same size as that. 7, 8, 9 and 10. So that will now fit in there, but it's going to be a bit of a tap tap, knock it in place, which is what we want. It wants to be a nice snug fit so that this doesn't move around and wobble. Go and see how that fits and maybe start mounting those up. Alright, change of plan. I cannot for the life of me get that to push in there when it's on the wall. Maybe I've mangled it a little bit in getting it off, that I've screwed up these ends a little bit, and I'm just going to damage the shelf, damage the van trying to force this in. So what I'm going to do instead, drill holes, put some dowels in, one screw in here, still going to be kind of hidden, just not as well. These brackets were great and they did fit well in the van last time. I guess they're kind of just a single use thing. With how easy that was, I probably should have just done that from the start and saved myself an hour of cutting out those little gaps and then faffing with this. We'll tidy up this mess now and then we can move on to something else. We're going to get on with the final sort of big day of cutting. This might even be the final day of cutting. Trim down our table, which is going to sit across there. It's going to be slightly wider than the one we've got on the current van, just to make it a little bit better, and the length will probably do the same. Difference will be that we're going to curve the corners compared to the current one, just to make it a little bit nicer. That's all sanded up, ready to stain. I've got a couple of other little things that I'm going to cut out before I get the oil out and start staining this darker. I'm going to just make a few bits of wood to make a box that we're going to put Nix's litter tray in. That's going to sit underneath the bed just to give us somewhere. It's going to be the other side of that little cat flap door. So I'll cut out some big bits of wood. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. I'll just make a box to put the litter tray in.
Okay, so for some reason I have been designated the tile job, which I'm a bit nervous about because I've never done it before. I mean, I've done a little bit in like art class, like little tiny mosaics. Essentially it should be the same thing, but just scaled up, I guess. So these are the tiles that we have. We've decided to go for like a solid green and a patterned green. Annoyingly, the pattern green comes like this, so I've had to buy a tile cutter and cut them down, and the goal is essentially to put it here. I think I have essentially all that I need. I have a friend who tiles and knows how to tiles for a living, but he actually did tile in his van as well, and he recommended to use, he made a very good point of there's a lot of movement in the van, loads of vibrations, so the normal adhesive and the grout for tiles would be not very flexible, so he recommended this sealant, which is apparently very flexible and elastic and should hopefully move with the van a bit more, and the grout that we haven't got yet should be arriving soon. That is also a flexible grout to kind of compensate for the vibrations and the movement of the van, so hopefully that works, but it means I can't just, you know, scrape the adhesive on. I have to do it with this thing, which I've never really used before, but I'm sure I can work it out. So I'm gonna cut that one, and then I'm gonna somehow try and use these things to create space. I don't know what I'm doing. Jack's just taking this bit down so these can be fully tiled, and then we'll cut that bit. Fin.
Looks so good.
So that's it. I've done it, I guess. I need to leave these for 24 hours, and then I can grout them with the flexible grout, which I thought was arriving today, but I think is arriving tomorrow. So we'll check back in 24 hours.
Right, it's another job from the old van. I've gone and taken out our gas locker. This is where our gas bottle sits, and there is a hole in the bottom that goes all the way through and out the bottom of the van, just so that any gases that do leak escape out the bottom and they don't, you know, obviously fill the van with nasty gases. I'm going to fit this in just here. I have to line it up and cut through the lino floor down to where we've cut that hole right back at the very start of this whole project. And then I've also got the piping from the old van as well, so because everything's kind of in the same place, I think it will all line up and work out okay. I don't think I'll have to buy any more of this. The only thing I think I'm going to have to do in this whole process is drill a hole through the wall there to get into the cupboard and just fix this down into the floor. Right, that's in. So the next job now is going to be putting this piping all the way back down to the other side of the van. This shorter end goes into the bottom of the hob, and then it's got to connect to this end, which connects to this pipe here. That joint sits kind of just in that area there under the bed, and then this comes all the way down here and then connects through a hole in the side of this here into this hose that goes onto the top of the gas bottle. For all of these joins, I've got some seal tape. You basically wrap some of this thin material around the thread, and then when you screw it together it fills the gaps and makes it air and watertight, so no gas will escape. I have to wait for Sarah to finish the tiles before we want to get the actual hob fully fitted in. We don't want it to be an issue with having it in the way while tiling. It's just easier to have a flat surface, so I'll come back to that probably in a day when the grout's done, and get the hob connected up, make sure everything's working. So I spent the morning properly ripping apart the old van. It's not particularly pretty, and it's now pretty much unusable. I've ripped out the batteries, all the wiring. It's in a state, there's panels and all sorts hanging down. But that means that it is 100% go ahead on getting these power batteries installed today ASAP. I probably won't be able to get the inverter hooked up for our mains power, or get this connected to a charger to charge it whilst the engine's running. But we can at least get some lighting up in here, which means we can work a little bit later, and I can work on some of those other things into the evening. What we've got here are two lithium-ion 100 amp hour batteries. These actually have got like a self-heating option as well, so if they get too cold they'll use some energy to keep themselves warm and prevent damage. For years we had AGM batteries in our van and the cold just fried them, especially as they only run down to 50%. It was just a nightmare trying to get them to work for any long period of time. So we switched to a lithium a couple of years ago. Really, really good. We really recommend it. They're pricier, but over the long term, I think they work out as much more financially sort of beneficial. We've got 2 of those, giving us 200 amp hours of power, which for us has always been fine. We don't use mass amounts of power. We really just charge laptops, and everything else is really quite small load. So this has been fine for us over the last few years. Maybe we would consider having some more, but we find that we drive regularly enough that it's never really an issue. We will also be putting a solar panel on this when it comes around to the spring, but getting into winter it's not as essential because there's not a lot of bright sunlight in Scotland throughout most of winter. What I've got then is the 2 batteries in this box here of noodles. I've got loads of noodles. This is all what was connecting the batteries to the fuse box in the old van. I've then got the fuse box and a couple of other little things that will go. This will all be fitted underneath the passenger seat here, but there's a massive Torx bolt in there that I haven't got at the moment. So for the sake of daylight hours, I'm going to try and get this built just here, and now let's just try and get some power in. And all this is doing is kind of just making the batteries into one big battery. So they're now joined, it's now just 200 amp hours in one go. Next up is going to be connecting the 12 volt system, and all this is kind of just borrowed from as it was installed in the old van. These here are just some 50 amp inline fuses that connect the battery to the wire that's going to run all the way to the fuse box. At the other end of this, we have got another inline fuse. This one is 10 amps. This wants to go onto the negative terminal. So that's the assembly at this end kind of complete, with the 12 volt positives and negatives running off these batteries, and these running as one big battery. And I need to run these cables up inside the van, up to the top where the electrics are all going to be housed in the fuse box. That's those wires now running up inside here, up to here. The fuse box is going to be sat in here, out of the way. Now it's going to be quite hard for me to put it in there neatly and to show everything I'm doing, so I'll quickly wire this up here, make sure those lights are working before we go and fit it away nice and neatly. I'm going to take down the front of this box to expose the wiring for these lights, and we can hopefully get that connected and hooked up really quite quickly. Sorry if this comes across a little bit all over the place. That's kind of how my head is today. We're just tearing apart the old van and trying to make sense of it all. Here's our switches for all of our lights. 5 switches on here to control all the different lights in the van. And then this is a dimmer switch. How we've worked it before is that the dimmer controls the power to all of the lights. And then with these we can individually turn off specific areas so that we can control those and turn off different ones to give different types of ambient lighting. I'm going to cut a hole in this box here so that we can fit this up, get those in place, and then connect everything behind. So all that's left to do now is basically connect up the wires to the fuse box to the switches, and these switches to the lights. So I'll try and do now. I'm kind of racing at the end of the day now, but as long as I can get this in, then we have light, and then it becomes a hell of a lot easier to get all this done. These are quite low draw, they're only 2.5 watts each. There's 4 of them, so the basic sort of maths calculator tells me a 3 amp fuse will do for this. So let's pop it in and see, and one of them's working. Okay, so I think everything is good. Let's just give it a little. Oof, yeah. Oh yeah, that's such a good feeling. So all it actually was is that when I'd used those little connector pieces, which I haven't got any around. Those little plastic connector pieces to fix these. I think I've literally just done 3 of them accidentally the wrong way around. These wires, whilst there is obviously a positive and a negative, there's no indication on the wire itself. So I think I just done them the opposite way. I just switched around these 3 and they're working fine. It actually feels really strange having light in here. We're so used to this space just being lit from the natural light. It's strange to have our own in here. I'm going to spend the rest of the evening trying to just get our other lights installed. So I'll start off with the strip lights that are running underneath here, get those wired in, make sure they're working fine, and maybe move on to the one in the bed. I did first fix wires in here for the light that's running along here. There's one accessible in that cupboard there for the second half of that. We haven't got one cut for this side because it's easy to access, so I need to cut that one still. But we'll get those wired in and get even more light in here. Solder's broken. Okay, that one we will come back to. Let's see if we can do the other ones without breaking the soldering. Oh yes. That is the back of this done. Now, this one here, obviously the solder's broke, I need to fix that. But the other lights are working. I'm going to fix this back up in place, leave this wire in here so I don't need to get the back off this again when I do fix that solder tomorrow. That's that panel back up and our little control switches here. So the idea is that we have the main lights here. This one here is for the lights behind me above the table. This is for the ones above the other counter. And then this here is for the ones above the hob and cooker. And then these are all on the same dimmer switch. So the way we use this is that we generally don't have those ones on, but we can kind of configure the mood that we want in the van, adjust the dimmers and kind of configure exactly how we want it to feel in here. I'm not going to solder now because I just can't be bothered to get the soldering iron out. I hate it. So that's going to be it for today. It's an absolute mess in here. Electrics always does this. Whenever you do anything with wiring, you end up with just stuff everywhere. Really pleased with a lot of this progress. It's nice to have lights in and be able to kind of keep working even though it's dark. Slightly annoyed about the breaking the solder over there, so I'll have to get the soldering iron out tomorrow and fix that. But yeah, really enjoying this progress. I'm going to go get Sarah, give her a quick look, and then yeah, we'll call it and crack on with more of the same tomorrow.